So the Teamsters decided not to endorse Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. But there's a little bit more in between about this. Like, what is going on? Why is it that people in the Teamsters union decided not to endorse either Kamala or Trump? So let's go ahead and pull this up here. We got this post here from Hotspot. Shout out to them. And this is from Teamsters, no endorsement for U.S. president. The General Executive Board of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters on Wednesday elected not to endorse any candidate for U.S. president. After reviewing 6 months of nationwide member polling and wrapping up nearly a year of rank and file roundtable interviews, with all major candidates for the presidency, the union was left with few commitments on top Teamsters issues from either former President Donald Trump or Vice President Kamala Harris, and found no definite support among members for either party's nominee. In data publicly released earlier in the day, President Joe Biden won the support of Teamsters voting in the straw polls at local unions between April and July prior to his exit from the race. But in the independent electronic and phone polling from July-September, a majority of voting members twice selected Trump for a possible Teamsters endorsement over Harris. Well, union leadership, you have to listen to what your membership says, right? I mean, after all, it is a union. And if the membership said, hey, we're going to support Trump, I don't know, popular vote usually wins the day, right? No, yes, maybe. I don't know. The Teamsters thank all candidates for meeting with members face-to-face during our unprecedented roundtables. Unfortunately, neither major candidate was able to make serious commitments to our union to ensure the interests of working people are always put before big business. We sought commitments from both Trump and Harris not to interfere in critical union campaigns or core Teamster industries and to honor our members' right to strike, but were unable to secure those pledges, said Teamsters General President Sean M. O'Brien. Our mission as union representatives is clear: to be honest and upfront, and to be inclusive, and above all, to be transparent with our membership. As the strongest and most democratic labor union in America, it was vital for our members to drive this endorsement process. Democrats, Republicans, and independents proudly call our union home, and we have a duty to represent and respect every one of them. We strongly encourage all our members to vote in the upcoming election and to remain engaged in the political process. But this year, no candidate for president has earned the endorsement of the Teamsters International Union. So wait a minute. Okay? Just returning back to the second paragraph, right? In data publicly released earlier today, President Joe Biden won support of Teamsters voting in straw polls at local unions between April and July prior to his exit from the race. So when Biden dropped out and Kamala was made in, but in the independent electronic phone and phone polling from July-September, a majority of voting members twice selected Trump as a possible Teamsters endorsement over Harris. So in this paragraph right here, it's very clear that the voting membership wanted Trump. During the Teamsters rank and file presidential roundtables, the union shared feedback from members in the railroad and airline industries. By the way, that's probably the railroad workers who said F Biden and went for Trump, who work under the Railway Labor Act, the RLA, and are at the mercy of government intervention and often prevents work stoppages. Well done, Democrats. While 10,000 Teamsters at the United Airlines are currently negotiating a new agreement, tens of thousands of railroad Teamsters were forced to accept a new contract implemented by Congress without member support in 2022. In roundtable discussions with Trump in January and Harris this month, neither candidate promised not to intervene to force similar RLA contracts, which undermines workers' bargaining leverage. While Harris pledged, if elected, to sign the PRO Act, an essential piece of labor legislation strengthening union protections, and criticize dangerous right-to-work laws that are enacted to bankrupt unions, Trump would not commit to veto national right-to-work legislation if he returned to the White House. Right-to-work laws only exist to try and kill labor unions, said Teamsters General Secretary-Treasurer Fred Zuckerman. It's a red line for the Teamsters and must be for any union when a candidate for elected office does not oppose such anti-worker legislation. It's too important an issue for the labor movement as well as the whole to be left up to state legislators. Okay, so in other words, what I find interesting is that the labor union membership twice in after Biden was dropped out, selected Trump. Now, I understand it's leadership's job to look out for people, but when the vast majority of your people say, yeah, we want this candidate? Why? So I want to pull up this video here. Shot again to Case Study QB, who's wrongly being censored.
Tesla, your reaction to this news today, and how significant is it or isn't it when you see the polling that shows that the underlying members overwhelmingly support the former president?
Well, again, this is the first time this has happened in 28 years. Martha, I probably did about 5 or 6 podcasts about Michigan and how Democrats were severely in trouble in Michigan. And one of those coalitions, as we know, is the unions in Michigan. I worked in that state with Bernie Sanders, and we look at all of the strikes that happened on last year, and that has not been repaired. So this is alarming for the Democrat Party. But I will be honest, if Republicans or if Teamster members are supporting Trump, then stand on it. Why say that we don't want to support either one when they clearly went to the RNC convention for the very first time in history? So I would respect a more clear answer in who you're supporting instead of just tucking your tail and putting your head in the sand. So if the poll is saying that it is Trump and they have not been able to come to that conclusion, I would rather know who you stand with. And I can just tell you by posting on social media, people are taking this as the unions are supporting Trump, but they're just too afraid to say it.
We're going to rewind that again.
And for the very first time in history. So I would respect a more clear answer in who you're supporting instead of just tucking your tail and putting your head in the sand. So if the poll is saying that it is Trump and they have not been able to come to that conclusion, I would rather know who you stand with. And I can just tell you by posting on social media, people are taking this as the unions are supporting Trump, but they're just too afraid to say it.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, if you truly support your membership, and that's the reason that you've joined a union and you act collectively, right? It should be a democracy, David, where the members are the people who have the voice. But we have seen this separation over, in particular, the last 8 years of the members, not being represented by the leadership. It does seem weak that the leadership is not willing to speak the voice of their members and say, we support Donald Trump in this case when you look at what the numbers are. Teslin, what's your gut, before I just have a few seconds here, what does your gut tell you when you look at these latest polls? And we also see that independents are leaning a little bit Trump in the latest poll, even though you see the swing states leaning a little bit Harris.
I see this as a problem. I mean, pure point blank, Democrats should take this as a big alarm as an issue. Anytime you have the unions that are not loudly and proudly supporting Democrats, it's a problem. But at the same time, they're not standing proud with Republicans as well. So, Houston, we have a problem, and somebody needs to fix it.
Teslin Figueroa, thank you.
Now, the thing is, and I want to pull this up here, too, because this is a tight election. This is another video here from Case Study QB, and it does relate to the Teamsters, because here's the thing. Let's say those Teamsters, their leadership said, okay, we're supporting Trump. Why is the membership going for Trump? Because polling right now is showing that in key battleground swing states, it's a tight race.
Shows a tight presidential race in 3 key battleground states. New surveys from Quinnipiac University find that Vice President Harris leads former President Trump 51% to 45% in the state of Pennsylvania. In Michigan, Harris has a 5-point lead over Trump. Wisconsin, though, Harris's lead over Trump is just 1 point, 48% to 47%. Meanwhile, a new Marist poll has Harris and Trump tied in Pennsylvania. Harris has a 5-point lead in Michigan and a 1.
Now, in Michigan and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, there's a lot of union membership there. And see, the thing is, if news were to break showing Trump getting the support of the Teamsters, polling data would change drastically. It's all about control. It's all about control and power and perception of reality.
1-point lead in Wisconsin. And similarly, a new AARP poll finds Harris leading Trump by 1 point among likely voters in Wisconsin, 49-48. But among voters 50 and older, Trump takes a 3-point lead over Harris. And just moments ago, a new poll from Siena College, New York Times, smaller poll this time, has Trump and Harris at 40s, tied at 47% nationally, but Harris up 4 points, 50 to 46 in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania. So some trends favoring Harris slightly.
Slightly. There's a little bit more about this.
I've been looking forward to this interview for some time, especially given the last-minute drama. I'm talking about a chat with Sean O'Brien. He is the Teamsters general president. We've talked to him many times over the years, and he keeps his mind. That's why I'm a little surprised by this news today that the Teamsters will not be officially endorsing a presidential candidate. So I thought to myself, Neil, when you talk to Sean, ask him how a guy who was invited to speak before Republicans at their convention, but didn't get the same honor at the Democratic convention, could decide not to support the Republican nominee. And here he is.
Yeah, like seriously, you didn't speak at the Democratic convention, but you spoke at the Republican convention. Wah, wah.
Sean O'Brien. Good to have you, Sean. Why not? Why not Donald
How are
Trump?
you, sir? Well,
Very
listen, we interviewed both candidates, and we were seeking commitments from both candidates, and we couldn't get solid commitments on our core issues like the PRO Act, like vetoing national right to work, like staying out of labor disputes and not trying to force any contracts on us, like what happened to our brothers and sisters in the rail industry. We didn't get solid commitments from either candidate, which was a major factor in our decision as a general executive board not to endorse any candidate. However, we did a lot of polling, as you know, and the polling leaned heavily towards former President Trump. So that tells
very
you that
heavily, very heavily, Sean. And I'm just wondering, do you look disconnected from your members?
No, we're definitely not disconnected from our members because, look, we did extensive polling that was important. Our goal as leaders, as union leaders, as leader of the Teamsters, is to provide the ability for people to have a voice and to provide credible information. And we cannot dictate to our members. Our members are sophisticated. They're going to make their own decisions. But this is a bigger problem. You know, the Democrats have always taken for granted that they're going to get our vote no matter what. And the Republicans are fancying themselves as the working people's party. I think right now, both sides have to take a step back.
But your membership, after Biden dropped out, the regular rank and file membership said they wanted to support Trump. All on board for Trump. We've seen this before. In 2016, during the Democratic primaries, there were many union organizations, labor organizations, whose membership wanted to support Bernie, that nutless cuck of a wonder, Sanders. And what did leadership do? They said no. And in some occasions, would say that the membership is going to be supporting Hill Dog. Is anyone surprised by this? No. It's all about controlling a narrative. Perception drives reality. And after all, we have seen this before where the Democrats have gotten support from unions. Yet, interesting enough, the Democrats are always quick then to stab the unions in the back, like they've always done. And why would membership do so? Why would the membership say they want to support Trump? Because maybe I think they get a better deal with Trump. Possibly. Now, again, I'm not a fan of supporting the Democratic Party or Republican Party. But when your membership makes a decision, it's the leadership's job to respect and follow through. I mean, after all, union leadership, your whole thing is to, listen to your people who make up your organization.
And really reevaluate what their commitment is to working people. And that's what we did in this process.
All right, but it does make me wonder when 2 out of 3 of your members prefer Donald Trump. Now, it's a telephone survey, I grant that, but that trend has been around for a while where members tend to favor more the Republican candidate than the Democratic candidate. But that's a pretty overwhelming shutout right there. So
well, I think
did that come into your thinking or no?
We evaluated everything. We evaluated the straw poll, which was done in person, which, as you know, when you have an audience, you can influence that audience. We figured that was going to lean heavily towards President Biden, and it didn't lean heavily towards him. And
again, ask why. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of railroad workers who have a lot to say about Biden and how his administration, as well as the also fantastic United States Senate and House, prevented them from going on strike. Heaven forbid, we really look at our railway system, how trains are derailing, bridges are falling apart. Hell, planes are falling out of the sky. Quite recently, I've been watching a couple of documentaries about the fall of Boeing. And I got to tell you, folks, man, the labor that builds our airplanes was screwed over by Boeing. Same thing applies to the railroad workers. Same thing applies to all these workers out there getting screwed over.
we did the poll with 40,000 of our members participated in that. That's a 60% poll, the other 58% poll that you see. And then we did the research-based polls. And 2 out of those 3 polls leaned Republican. So again, I'll get back to, there's a lot of work that got to be done. Our members are paying attention. And again, no endorsement, I think, sends a message to both parties that if they truly want to support working people, they have to reevaluate it and understand that nothing is given, it is earned.
All right, I don't mean to disrespect.
Well, yeah, but your membership just said they want to be for Trump. And again, this isn't an endorsement or support of Trump. It's just, it's what the people wanted. Again, democracy, voting, it's not perfect. But when the vast majority say, hey, this is who we want, you got to go along with it. That sucks, but hey, that's democracy, baby.
Here, but no endorsement also means you can have it both ways. And you're not taking a stand.
No, we're not looking to have it both ways at all. I take a stand every day. I call balls and strikes. There's some great Democrats that supported us. President Biden, passed pension legislation that fixed our pensions. But the reality of it is, again, I've said this time and time again, they fixed problems that were created a long time ago. Trucking deregulation.
Can't you want Trump to win? I'm not a fan of the Democratic Party or Republican Party, Indy. You know that, man. But it's just like, and I know you're joking because you did the LOL. So look, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of liberal Democrats going to be like, oh, you want Trump to win. No, look, I'm not a fan of Trump or Kamala. I have said this over and over again. But, maybe this is just me. This is my weakness, my idealism, my hope. It's just when said organization, rank and file, make a decision, and it's the masses, 2/3 of the Teamsters were saying they wanted to support Trump after Biden dropped out because they're not a fan of Kamala. What does that tell you, leadership? You got to respect your rank and file. Unless what? The dear leaders know better? What kind of deal are you going to get from the Democrats? Now, again, I don't see Trump or Kamala being any different helping out workers. No. But it's what the rank and file chose. It's what the rank and file wanted. You got to ask yourself, why are they doing it? Why are they supporting him? You think people are voting for Donald Trump because their lives are doing great? There's a reason why Trump came into prominence in the first place. It was a response of the neoliberal policies of Barack Obama and his VP, Joe Biden.
Cost 400,000 Teamster jobs. Companies went into bankruptcy, which destroyed pension funds. So, although they fixed the problem, some of us created those problems that had to be fixed. And, look, it's different times. Our members are different. A lot of people, there's a lot of social issues out there where sometimes our members are focused clearly on the social issues. Not taking a position is not having it both ways. This country is divided down the middle. It's my goal, just like we've done with our union, is to bring this together, work bipartisan, and get some stuff done, like the PRO Act, like bankruptcy reform, and other issues that affect our members.
Did this turn in any way, Sean? I think you were critical of President Trump after his interview where he was going back and forth with Elon Musk and others about when you can fire or get rid of workers, and that he admired that ability. And you were quite vehement about it. And I just thought that might have represented a turning point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously words have consequences, right? Statements have consequences. And I called former President Trump out, just like I would call anybody else that tries to retaliate or make fun of people being terminated for exercising their right to strike. But when we asked both candidates in the presidential forum roundtables about supporting railway workers and workers that are under the RLA to strike and not interfere, we couldn't get strong commitments from either candidate. So, that was a major factor in our decision making. But back to your point, unacceptable for anybody to fire workers for exercising their right and or gloat about it.
So we're going to pause here because this guy's going to keep on repeating the same thing over and over again. Fox News kind of wants to do its gotcha kind of thing on him. But this is, it does set a very dangerous precedent in regards to how leadership in a lot of these unions are treating its membership. And the members have every right to speak out too. Maybe call for a vote of no confidence on your membership for the Teamsters. Because if the vast majority have selected somebody, then You got to go with what the masses want, what the people want. You know, you don't have to like democracy, but this is the system we have. And if we don't step up and protect our own rights, and we're constantly being led astray, what's the whole point of this Teamster union purpose in the first place? Now, as it stands right now, unless anything changes between now and election night, Teamsters aren't endorsing anybody. Who's surprised by that? But if I was a rank and file leader in the rank and file, I'd be very angry with my leadership right now.